Here we go.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome to Paradigm Shifter Transformation Tuesday. It's so grateful to have you here and to be blessed. It's like my new hat, my blessed hat, and that you are a blessing, in reinventing constantly. And so, Paradigm Shifters, who are we? We are a global community of shifters and uplifters. Can you say shift and uplifters? And right now we're at 948 members. Do you believe it? Something that started as an idea in August is growing and growing, and there's 27 countries that are representative. Not to put anybody like, oh, but we're all shifting, we're all uplifting all the time. And this started as something in the pandemic, and we're continuing and continuing and growing. So I am so very, very pleased. Let me get here to have as our guest presenter today Anne Fry. So let's take a deep breath into Anne Fry, because Anne has reinvented herself many, many times as a special ed teacher, a social worker, a manager, a speaker, a leadership and transition coach. And not only that, Anne's lived in many places and has reinvented herself many times. So I love this part, and I'm taking this from this beautiful workbook. Boom. We'll be talking more about her workbook that you can get, actually. And she's particularly proud of selling everything in Austin, Texas, and moving to New York City, but get this, at the age of 60. Okay? Then she returned to Austin 10 years later. So, with that, I want to introduce everybody and welcome to Anne Fry. So, come on, Anne. Come on here, Anne, and can you speak to us a little bit about what this whole reinvention is all about? And a little bit about you. I'm fascinated. That means you're in your 70s.
I'm 75.
What?
Yeah, I'm 75. Yay. Yeah. I'm happy to, and I can be long-winded, so don't not interrupt me if I'm going too long. So,
Oh, yeah, I have the same issue. So yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
all
Yeah.
right. So, I grew up in Miami, Florida, which at the time was a wonderful place. I wouldn't live there for all the tea in China right now, but you know, sunshine has got a dark side as well as a good side and all of that, and hurricanes and blah, blah, blah. And after graduating with my bachelor's degree in elementary and special ed, um, I got I heard about this program where you could go overseas and you could work at Army or Navy, military bases as a teacher. So I applied and I put down the countries I'd like to go to, and voila, the night before I had to give my principal notice about staying another year, I got a telegram saying, by the way, we would love to offer you a job teaching in Japan for the next year. And it's like, oh my goodness. And I had to go into the office that next morning, hide from my principal because I knew he wanted a decision because I had 24 hours to make up my mind. And I had a wonderful experience about it. This will tell you who I am. My mom, who was always very, very open to anything I wanted to do, all of a sudden turned on me and said, oh my God, Japan is way far away. How will I ever see you? It's hard to even talk to you. I'm going to miss you. Maybe you shouldn't go. And it's like, why are you saying all this? This is not fair. And I went to sleep that night thinking, okay, maybe I should turn it down. But I went in the next morning and I just had this thing that said, no, you have to do this. And so I called my mother in the morning, and she said, so what did you decide? I said, I'm deciding that I'm going to go and you're going to have to be okay with it. And she went, yay. I didn't, and pardon my language. She said, I didn't think you had the balls to do it. She said, I wanted you to go and I wanted to give you as much stuff to think about to make sure that you felt okay going. And that was a great start off to the rest of my life at age 24. So I went to Japan. I lived there for 2 years. I got to travel around Asia. I was an elementary and special ed teacher. And then well, after my first year, I knew I wanted to go back and get a master's in social work. So I applied to the University of Illinois Chicago, the Jane Addams School of Social Work, which is the best social work school in the nation. And even though I didn't have good grades, somehow I got in there. Maybe my essay, or maybe the fact that they knew that I had to pay out of state tuition. I don't know, and they'd get a lot of money out of me. I'm not sure. But I got there. And, when you put your mind to something, it's amazing. I was able to be class president, straight A's, and that was it. 2 years in social work. I then practiced for a couple of years under supervision in a police station and in a mental health center. And then I started to work in alcohol and drug treatment centers, doing counseling for them. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I got a job in a university full time teaching in an alcohol and drug abuse program. And that was still in Chicago where I was living. And then 7 years after that, I got a job taking me away from education. My mother said, "You got tenured and you left?" It's like, yeah, because they always say, when you're in an institution, no offense, by the way, no, no offense to you, Delia, but say sometimes you stay there, you get tenured, and you're there forever. And sometimes you'd go out in the world and you don't grow. That's what they say sometimes. And being the kind of person that I am, I quit that job and started running as the manager of a drug and alcohol treatment center in Chicago. And then they offered me a position in Austin, Texas to start an adolescent unit. And so here in 1987, we moved to Austin, Texas. And this is where I lived until when I moved to New York in my right at 60, at 60, 60, right? Yeah, at 60. And I wrote a book about that called 60, Sexy, Sassy, and Free.
Wait. You have another book out? Can
Yeah,
you say that again?
yeah, 60. I should go run and get one. I forgot to.
Oh, that's okay. Well, what we want to do is I want to make sure that we put it on the site because there's a lot of
Do a push up.
60-year-olds in here. So say that again, the title.
60, Sexy, Sassy, and Free. And then the subtitle is A Real Woman's Story of Reinvention. So I
Oh,
did that, and I wrote that all about my experience of moving forward. And then the truth is, that book, that book came out just before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that was about 2 years after I moved, 2 or 3 years after I moved to New York. I had breast cancer, and I was living up there far away from my family. But I had friends that came up during chemo weekends, and I had people there that I'd made as friends. So I had a community that helped me through that process. And at that time in my career, I was already teaching in New York at NYU, a very prestigious university, New York University, and I was teaching the master class in coaching, teaching people how to be coaches, because that's what I had done for the last 20 years of my life, is coaching executives, coaching leaders, coaching individuals who wanted to figure out what they wanted to do with their life. And I got to teach that class for 7 years at NYU, even during cancer. And it was being in New York was absolutely amazing for me. It was a dream of a lifetime. My parents were from there, but they moved to Miami before I was born, and we would go visit. And there's just something, I don't know if you've never been to New York, you got to make sure you go, and I'll be your personal guide if you want to take me there. If you pay for me to go with you, I'll show you around New York. So I lived there, yeah, for 10 years. And during that time, I did a lot of professional speaking, travel around the country, working inside corporations with high level leaders, speaking at conferences, and came back with the expectation of figuring that all out and doing it here in Austin because when you work virtually, that's what you do. So I started getting work and I started traveling from here and I started getting clients here. And then I started to notice the decline. My age was a big decline. I decided after cancer when my hair grew in white. I'm glad to see another white-haired person here, by the way. You too, okay, and Carol too. Um, I just let my hair grow out when it grew back in from cancer, and I've never colored it. That's not true. When I got back here because it was awesome, I put a little blue in it for a while, you know, just let it have a little blue. Um, but I'm in transition now. My work has slowed down. I'm not sure what I'm doing to boost that, and it's okay. I'll figure it out. I always do. I have so many things I can do, and I do have a few coaching clients, and I'll build that. Whether I'll be doing a lot of traveling and doing the corporate stuff, I'm not sure about that. But I'm not sure about flying at all yet. So, we would see how that would go.
Well, I just wanted to say that, well, first of all, what a fascinating life. What a fascinating life. And all of the people you must have met and helped all through your life. And so the way I just knew you is from this workbook. And the I just wanted to, when you
When you
want
want
to
to,
be
yes.
different, 7.5 steps to transcend the status quo. And first of all, I love the photo on the cover. And it reminded me of like the deadness and then the new life. And what I would love to have you just talk a little bit about is maybe take us through what the first step would be, just as a teaser for people, and then the rest of it is in the book. So um, thank you so much for coming on. And what is, like, if we know we want to well, first of all, what's the status quo? And then what would you suggest the paradigm shifters do as a very first step? Can we,
Yeah.
you got that?
Yep, I do. So let me just read you a couple of little tidbits from chapter one, right? So chapter one, no, that's not what I want. I want the first step. I'm sorry. That was the first chapter two, chapter two.
Whatever you think that would be beneficial to people who are just getting started.
I think actually what's chapter five, it says the first four non-steps, requirements for getting started. I think that's really important because a lot of people sit, this is my experience of there. A lot of people sit and they look at their lives and they say, they look back to their childhood or their teen years and they say, what did I always want to do or who did I want to be? And they look back and they're realizing that they never did that. So the first few chapters are all about, where are you compared to where you thought you'd be? What was your life like? Where did you settle? That's a really important word. Where did you settle? How many people do you know that went into professions because it was the expectation of the family, not because they wanted to? Mom or dad is this, and so you're going to be this. You're a teacher because your parent is. You become a doctor because your dad or mom is. And so they do that. Or they stay out in a more menial job, not to put that down, when they really had aspirations of going to college, but they didn't. And so they kind of got on with their life. So the first step actually is called first, or before the first step, there's non-steps, four non-steps. Okay. So requirements for getting started. So number one, you have to show up to the idea. When you see the title of the book, you have to show up and say, you know, I'm already here, but I bought the book and I'm reading it. I'm reading from my book. That means there's a part of you that's interested. And those of you that are here to support us on this call, there's a part of you that are called by that little statement. The second non step is to be willing. You're here, you've shown up, there's something you might want. Still, you could be sitting there saying, sure, I'll read this book, but I'll get there. I'll bet there's nothing here for me.
Mm.
It's like, that they're like sitting there with, they're like, yeah, show me, show me, show me there's a reason to do this. And I'm saying, just be willing to shatter that and at least be open. The third non step is to tell the truth. Really look inside yourself. The process doesn't work unless you look inside. Remember the introduction we talked about? And I do an introduction where, you've stashed away all your lovely ideas in a box in your closet. And it's sitting there waiting for you to go back and look inside and see if maybe there were some things that you had, dreams that you had. So you have to tell the truth about where you are and where you think you'd like to be someday before you die. And then the last one, number four, the last non-step is to give yourself permission to really do the work. Go through the book. I'm starting to do some group calls and things like that. Get into it. It's scary to do something different. I never thought that I would get on a plane at 24 and travel to Japan by myself, far away from my family, and not see them. I did go home the summer in between because teachers have a long break. But I traveled all over Asia, often on my own. I had never done anything like that. So you have to give yourself permission to take the chance to do something different. That's where I am again, as some of my other work is now drying up due to age and travel and things like that. But what am I going to do now? There might be some things out there that I will do that I will love to do. And I'm in that same thing. And I'm reading my own book again. So if we go beyond the non-steps, I'll just give you the first step.
I
Okay?
just, I just want to just put a like a little pause there. It's
Yeah.
like you you're asking yourself at this age, what's next? But you said something. You're going back and reading your book again.
Yeah.
So what is that like? Before you hop into the next one, what is that like for you right now at 75 to go back and reread?
It's interesting. Well, first of all, I wrote this book originally in 2010, I think. Yeah. And I think it was part of when I was coming out of cancer and was teaching. And it's like, I have been, and this is what I said to myself, I am so blessed that I've loved every kind of work that I've done. And I've loved the opportunities to live in different places and get to know different people and many more things. And I said, I bet there's a lot of people that would like to figure out how to do that. And so grasping onto the words that clients had shared with me in the past, my own reinvention stuff, it just sort of started flowing from me. And then just this last 6 months, I went through a very incredible back surgery back in when was that? Um, when was that? Karen, you probably know. That was about 8 months ago. We're in a group together. About 8 months ago, I went through a very intense back surgery, which put me down for several months. And I picked up this book and I said, with COVID and people not having jobs and with people scared and all of this stuff, this would be the perfect time to redo this book and update it and make a second edition. And I said, so I pulled out much of what I liked the first time, added much of what I wanted to add in the second one, including cancer, and things like that. And I got this cover from, there's a company called Fiverr, Fiverr, where you can order people to do copies of books for you, lay them out, do all kinds of things. And so I got her, and this was totally her idea. And I don't even know if she's English or American. She can speak English, but we did all of our communication via email. You don't even have a telephone. And for very little money, she put this together. And if you look even down in the soil, it's brown on one side and it's green on one side. It's this whole thing of being dead and coming alive. And so I redid it because I thought it was timely. I don't know what question you asked. I lost track
Yeah,
of what.
that's perfect. That's perfect. And then we have enough time for you to go and go and you're going to talk about I
Step
think
one.
yeah, that and then we'll wrap it up and leave these people hanging so that we can have you back and after we dive in. So go
Yeah.
ahead and tell us a little bit more.
Well, step one is to stop doing what you don't want to do. How many of us do so many things that we don't want to do? Like right now, I'm packing. I'm getting ready to move in 3 weeks, finally, into my boyfriend's house and live together at 75. What a blessing that is, right? We don't get married. It's too much complication about, having our kids and leaving what we have to our kids. I don't have anything, he does. So, but I'm going through things. I would stop doing what I don't want to do, going through things. Sometimes you have to go through things and you have to do things. But the thing is, stop doing what you don't want to do. Where do we start? In the beginning. We sort, and then I go on to, your routine. What do you do in the morning? How do you do this? I'm lucky I work at home. I get to work when I want to. How many of you get to do that? I bet some of you on the phone do. But there's so many questions in this chapter. It goes on for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages, and then it goes into some exercises that you can do, asking yourself some questions. You know, how do you feel about how your day goes? And it might not be about work. It might be about other things. It might be about your relationship. It might be about um, where you're living. It might be all kinds of things. You know, I love how my day goes. That's a comment in there, and I talk about it. I put personal comments in here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not saying that I'm so have it so together that some of this has been hard for me, especially now going through it a second time. But I wanted to put it out there, and I did. In January, I got it done, and I had two friends edit it and format it, and it was all ready to go, and we got it on Amazon, and I'm proud of it. And you can look it up there, and you can buy it and order it, or I can send you a direct link, and you can send it out if you'd like to, Judy.
Sure.
But
So my next question is, okay, so where is that edge where like you finally like, okay, this is it. I have to must reinvent myself. What are some of the questions that are going on, maybe not in your mind but in your clients and people
yeah,
that you've worked with minds, where they're holding on so tightly to where they are? What is that feeling, or where is it that they're boom,
yeah, I
that
get
they
it.
make the jump?
Um, I think it's when they finally wake up one day, their eyes open, and they say, "I don't want to do this anymore." And the "I don't want to do this anymore" might be about a job. It might be about getting out of a relationship that's not healthy. Um, it might be about living far away from kids or grandkids and wanting to be closer to them. Um, it might be that what they're doing for a living or where they're living even goes against their primary values, but they're doing it. You know, it's where they got stuck. It's like you think, I just read something the other day that said something like probably 85% of all people still live in the community they were raised in or in the city they were raised in. They don't get out there in the world. They don't explore it. They don't see what else might be out there. They only dream about it. And when I would talk about moving to New York at age 60, people would look at me like I was crazy. And they would say, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Why wouldn't I do that? I've always wanted to live there." And I had the portability to take my computer with me because everything was computer bound and work at home. And it was it wasn't easy. It was scary. I had one assistant. My sister has an apartment there, and she was living somewhere with a man. And I took over her apartment for 6 years, 6.5 years. And then she came back, and I moved in with a friend that I had made there that I got very friendly with for the last 3 years. And I didn't have to go out and find housing. That was a relief. And I found stuff fairly affordable. But um, people are scared of New York. I wasn't scared of it. My mother and father were from there. I used to go there all the time. I just never lived there alone. And I had left my husband 3 years before I went to New York. I had gotten myself out of a 26-year marriage that wasn't good for the last 15, I'd say. But because I was the kind of person that had divorce all around me and my family, I was going to stay married. And I was the social work therapist. I should be able to figure out how to make this work. And one day I couldn't make it work anymore. And I finally said, "I can't do this anymore." And I filed for divorce, and we got divorced. I found apartments here. And then 3 years later, I said, "You know what I've always wanted to do is go to New York." And so there were always incremental moments in my life when I had that realization that something here isn't working or not working as well as I would like it to be working. And it's like, why the hell not follow your heart? You know, my husband wasn't happy that I divorced him. That's his problem. I was ready to move on a long time, and I stayed there for the wrong reasons. And then I woke up, and so there's usually something that happens to you, or you have a realization that says, "This isn't where I wanted to be, physically, work wise, relationship wise, whatever. I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a change." And so sometimes people call me. I give them an assessment tool that looks at a lot of their personality, a lot of options that they might want to do in terms of work. I do one on one coaching with them if they want to. I'm going to start running some group coaching for people so it's less expensive. They can sign on for some group things and we can go chapter by chapter. And I'll certainly come back on or let people know about that through anybody I know.
Great.
And I don't know where I got my bravery. One last thing, I know we're running out of town, but one last thing. The day after I got my, I had when I went to my gynecologist for my annual checkup, she was doing a chest, breast, feeling my breast, and she said, "I feel something over here." She sent me, for the testing that I needed to do, and she called me the next afternoon, and she said to me, "Anne, you have cancer." And of course, I started to cry and I felt bad. And I called my kid. That was a hard call. I only have one kid. And, but the interesting thing was, I woke up the next morning and you know how you get out of bed, you sort of lean up, put your feet on the ground, and then you get up. And I'm sitting in the bed. And all of a sudden, I remember sitting there, putting my hands over my eyes and saying, "Oh my God, I have cancer." And I cried for about 30 seconds. And then I said to myself, or out loud, I don't know, "This disease is not going to kill me. Get up." And I just got up, took a shower, got up, faced the day, called her for references for doctors, and I just got into it, into it, into it, and I got it taken care of. And knock on wood, it's been 12 years and I'm cancer free. And that's another person I like to work with. I like to work, and I'm going to write a book about that, working with people with cancer who have to deal with the workplace as part of their cancer experience.
Wow.
All that stuff.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much. Was
Oh,
part
thank
of the,
you.
thank you so much, first of all, for taking the time to be with us.
Oh,
And one of the things that we do as a community, paradigm shifting community, is we we ask you one last question. What is it that we can hold as our community, hold for you in your next? What would you love to have us hold for you in the next part of your very, very long longevity life? What would you love?
can I have two?
You can have as many as you want.
Well, if you could tell people about this book so that I can really get people started on their path by doing groups, that would be awesome. Go out and buy the book, see what you think, read it. It's not very expensive. I think it's $18 on where do we buy all our stuff? Right,
Yeah.
Amazon, or you can get it on Kindle and listen to it. Um, or yeah, so not Kindle, um, where you listen to it on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Audio. Yeah.
right, right. My brain is not so great because during my last surgery, I had too much anesthesia and I have some brain issues here.
Well, what would
Um,
you like to have us hold for you personally for your life
yeah,
as
I would
well?
like to have you keep me in your thoughts for my some of the brain activity that seemed to go away with the my concentration and my ability to think of things and names and words. I'm not senile. I've had tests, but it's definitely something that happened from a very long surgery and some complications. So I would like you to keep me in your thoughts about that.
Alrighty, you've got it. So everybody, we're gonna shoot some energy to you, Anne.
Okay, thank
Ready? From all over the world, all over the country,
you.
and ready? Whew, there it is. You feel it?
Thank you. I feel it. It's just, woo. Okay.
Boom! There you go. Thank you so much for coming on here. We feel so blessed to be knowing you and welcoming you into this community, and we see total growth from here on out. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
being
much.
here. Aw, there you go.